society's transition away from the 20th century industrial era is characterized by the mass digitization of our lives. Various technological innovations have come forth that have continued to change the modes and attitudes of consumers. The sharing economy is one of these technological innovations that has simplified the access to physical and non-physical goods and services through platforms include Uber that provides taxi services, Airbnb that provides and Taxify that also provides taxi services. Online platforms such as the commercial internet, wireless networks, smartphones, online trust and reputation systems, and global networking sites. The sharing economy is a technological innovation that has and continues to shape the contemporary labor relations. Sharing economy businesses provide online platforms that connect consumers to suppliers to meet the demand for physical and non-physical goods and services. The history of the sharing economy can be traced back to the global financial crisis of 2008, where experts revealed that the general loss of trust in traditional business models led to the growth and the development of the sharing economy that has continued to grow in leaps and bounds. There is also the risk of confusing collaborative consumption and sharing economy because these two terms have been used interchangeably in literature, although they refer to two different things. In collaborative consumption, the main difference is that it involves the transfer of ownership, unlike sharing economies that tend to bank on the term share. So there are two main models of the sharing economy. That is the peer-to-peer model and the business-to-consumer model. In the peer-to-peer model, the only thing provided is an online platform that connects the consumer and the producer. The platform itself or the company itself does not produce the good or service that is the subject of the transaction. In this case, Airbnb, a website that connects homeowners to people searching for accommodation areas all over the world, is an example of a peer-to-peer model. The second model is a business-to-consumer model, of which the online platform or the company itself is a producer of the good or the service that is subject to the transaction and is also a platform that connects itself to the consumers for the exchange of the good or the service. At this juncture, when one may stop and ask themselves what then is the difference between sharing economy business models and the traditional business models. Take, for example, an Uber driver and a traditional taxi driver. In the case of sharing economy businesses, the main distinction between it and traditional business models is the existence of a medium or an online platform provided for the exchange of the goods or the services. In this case, the Uber app is the difference between an Uber driver and a traditional taxi driver.
And first, we'll look at the advantages that the sharing economy has on labor law relations. The first advantage of the sharing economy is that it reduces costs on both the business and the consumer. On the part of the business, we can see that sharing economy businesses do not have to employ as many employees as compared to those employed in traditional businesses, and as such, they do not need to train such employees, and also they do not have to deal with the costs that come along with employing so many employees, and as such, the operation costs of such businesses are reduced. On the part of the consumer, consumers are able to access goods and services at any time of the day, therefore saving their time and also the costs that are involved from moving to one place to the next in search of a certain good or service.
For example, borrowing from the peer-to-peer sharing model, we can see that an application called Branch, which is available in Kenya, consumers are able to fill in an online form, and from that they're able to acquire loans, and this reduces the costs that are involved in going physically to a bank or a credit finance place to get a loan, and also the fact that they are able to efficiently acquire this service.
Another obvious advantage of the sharing economy is that it's allowed for the creation of more jobs, and specifically self-employment, where one is able to have one or more jobs at the same time, as they're not constrained by the regular working hours of traditional businesses, which normally operate from 8 to 5 during the day. And as such, people are able to earn more income and such lead better lives.
On the other hand, the sharing economy also has its drawbacks, one of which is that workers are labeled as independent contractors, and as such, they're not able to enjoy the benefits that come with being an employee. For example, health insurance and overtime benefits, and also compensation.
We've now established that the sharing economy has a number of advantages and disadvantages. Looking at the advantages of the sharing economy, one can conclude that there is a need to preserve and promote sharing economy businesses. However, by looking at the disadvantages of the sharing economy, such as unfair competition, the fact of taking independent contractors, workers as independent contractors instead of taking them as employees in order to deprive them of social benefits, and the failure of sharing economy businesses to promote public health and public safety, as well as the fact that sharing economy businesses allow suppliers to discriminate among consumers without being held liable in law, one can as well conclude that there is a need to regulate sharing economy businesses by law. To achieve this, some courts have developed some tests in order to tell whether a worker should be taken as an employee or as an independent contractor. Two main tests have been developed. One of them is the right to control test. Now, the right to control test has various forms. There is the necessary control test. This is the test whether the employer has direct control over the performance of that part of the business which is directly linked to what the employer wants the business to achieve. This test was developed to avoid employers denying their workers the status of an employee only because a worker had control over a particular part of the business, but which is not directly linked to the goal that the employer wants to achieve in the business. Take Uber as an example. If we are to apply the necessary test to Uber, we will see that Uber drivers should in fact be taken as employees of Uber. The reason for this is that even though Uber drivers have control as to the time when they can work, the Uber company still has direct control over the price that they can charge, and this is directly linked to the objective that the Uber company wants to achieve in this business. Another form of the right to control test is the entrepreneurial opportunities test. This test is quite simple. It is to the effect that if a worker is using their own tools and they can gain profits or incur losses from the business, they have to be taken as independent contractors. Again, if we take Uber as an example, we see that applying this case to Uber drivers should be taken as independent contractors because they can incur losses or gain profits from that driving business, and they usually use their own tools because some of them drive their own cars in this business. It was actually in response to this test that another control test was developed, and this is the economic realities test. The economic realities test is to the effect that in order to tell the difference between an independent contractor and an employee, one has to see whether the business or the service that the worker is offering is an integral part to the employer's business, to the extent that without such a service, the employer's business would not be working. As we can see, this test has made all workers employees instead of independent contractor, because without workers, we all know that no business can really flourish. Even though these tastes seem to be sound, we should note that courts of law have been applying them in an inconsistent manner, and they need to be codified by the legislature. Because of this, it has been submitted that the legislature, together with administrative agencies, have failed to regulate the sharing economy, which is a type of innovation, because for a long time it was thought that the only way to regulate innovation is through intellectual property law. However, gone are the days where any innovative step would require to be a trademark or to have a patent. Today we have the sharing economy, which is really a type of innovation which doesn't require or which intellectual property law is unable to regulate. And because of this, a field of law has emerged. It's known as innovation law. Innovation law is there to regulate innovation. As far as the sharing economy is concerned, innovation law would require that we look at the various forms of sharing economy businesses, because they are really of numerous forms, and because of this it has been really difficult to regulate them. For example, you can see that some sharing economy businesses only provide a platform where consumers and suppliers can meet, while others, they provide both the platform and they are at the same time the suppliers of goods and services. So it's really difficult to regulate them. So according to innovation law, we have to take into account the various forms of sharing economy businesses, see where there are similarities, so that we can see how to come up with a type of employment law, a sui generis employment law, to regulate the sharing economy businesses. Solutions of innovation law range from the test that I've just discussed, the right control test and the economic realities test, to compulsory contract, skill, minimum skill requirement, and so on. Next, we see that in Kenya, the sharing economy has developed in leaps and bounds, because we have like Uber driver, the Uber company. We also have a branch in many other businesses. However, there is still no law to regulate the sharing economy in Kenya. And because of this, we think that innovation law, if adopted in Kenya, could be a promising way and a nice way of regulating sharing businesses in Kenya, because, as I said, they result into unfair competition vis-a-vis traditional businesses. They do not promote public health and public safety. They also pave the way for discrimination among consumers. Yeah, thank you.
So, what do we think about the sharing economy? Is it good or is it bad? In order to determine this, we're going to look at the most pronounced effect that it produces, which is a promotion in freelance work and consequentially the relation it has to job loss. Promoting freelance work is in itself a good thing because it aids the economy of any member state that you want to talk about. As a result of the freelance working, you technically have a mass movement towards specialization at the individual level. This allows everyone within the states to maximize their productivity, whether they know it or not. Now, on the flip side, to do with the relation to job loss, well, yes, people do pursue freelance work as a result of lacking their jobs, but that's not a bad thing, it's actually good. However, the problem comes in when we realize that the sharing economy is actually pushing people out of their jobs and forcing them to pursue freelance opportunities. One specific example of this is with Uber, who at some point in time wanted to actually replace all of their drivers with automated drivers. So how are we going to combat this problem? It's our thought that with the aid of labor law and innovation law, we can to some extent create some form of preemptive affirmative action in order to impose a quota that companies must meet for human workers.